Welcome to the Spiritual and Empowerment Living with Tia podcast, a sacred place and resource for spiritually centered women who want to go from the mundane to the magical life, for overcoming fear and doubt, reconnecting with the goddess, understanding messages from spirit, and uncovering your spiritual gifts so you can finally live the life you deserve. Hello, spiritual trailblazers, and welcome to another amazing episode on the Spiritual and Empowerment Living with Tia. Today's episode is first of its kind, and I can't wait to dive in. Lupercalia with Libbii Armstrong. Waving her magical wand, Libbii Armstrong empowers her multi-passionate clients to turn their mayhem into money. As a spiritual business witch and intuitive coach, she fuses practical magic with spiritual magic using quantum human design, witchery, psycho-energy tools, and business strategy. Libbi is also the head witch at the Collective Witchery, where she runs the Spell of the Month Club, a monthly digital spell book subscription, and an online boutique of handcrafted witchy goodies. You can find Libbi at LibbieArmstrong.com, thecollectivewitchery.com, and the Collective Witchery Group.com, all of which I will put in the link or description of this episode. Libbi, welcome.
Hi. Thank you for inviting me to come chat with you today.
I'm so excited. So what I have here, and I did some research, and I went to two different websites, and it ended up being two different websites. They end up saying repetitive things, but for the bio I have here, Lupercalia was an ancient pagan pre-Roman festival held each year of February to avert evil spirits, purify the city, releasing health and fertility. However, there's an extended bio that talks about the bloody, violent, sexually charged celebration. And also there's a bit about Valentine's Day. So what have you learned or known Lupercalia to be? Because I had a slightly different picture of it until I did about the history.
Right. So Lupercalia, people think today that it's just an ancient Valentine's festival, right? But it's not. It actually is quite further from Valentine's Day. It's actually a little tale of two twin baby boys that were cast aside to die in the wild by their evil uncle. They then had a chance encounter with a wild mother who raises them completely free of conventional laws. Their loss of innocence when they come of age with the indoctrination into society, and then reclaiming their birthright as heroes, and then finally remembering back on those young wild times with a lovely festival. That festival continued for like 12,000 years. And it's still kind of celebrated today in certain sectors of the communities.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I've seen it in different shows where, like you said, it's completely different, but it's like lovey, and the only thing that's intense is picking your partner for the day. Something like that in history is still relevant, or at least showing its I was going to say face, but it's not a person, but showing its festivities still in many ways. So I thought it was cool that we can still take the best parts of certain traditions.
Right. That's the best thing about spirituality, is that you can do that. You have that creative freedom as long as you're not being disrespectful or anything like that. We've got that creative freedom to do that with all these lovely age-old traditions and festivals, right?
Absolutely. So, talking towards the rituals, what are some rituals that you would suggest people can do during Lupercalia?
Okay, well, this is where it gets kind of fun, right? Because the first thing that pops into my mind is the whole thing around Lupa. And Lupa was the she-wolf that allowed them to suckle on her when she saved them from the river. And so it's honoring the wolf, honoring Lupa. And one of the things I like to do or tell people to do is something that you don't actually think about a lot of is go and adopt a wolf through a wildlife conservation program. There's a lot of those conservation programs that are out there that allow you to like virtually adopt a wolf. That's a great way to honor Lupa is by, adopting a wolf, or if you want something a little bit more close to home, you know, adopt or foster a puppy, because unfortunately a puppy and some goats were sacrificed during the original Lupercalia festivities. So today we could adopt or foster a puppy, or we could sacrifice instead of sacrificing an actual living being, because we don't do that in today's world.
Yeah.
Right? We can sacrifice our time or our money or our energy in helping those programs, those foster programs or adoption programs, as wildlife conservation programs, helping them protect those animals. Because, they all need protection, right? So that's one way that I think people can do that. Another way to look at it is Lupa also, she fostered these 2 human children as if they were her very own. So if you are in a capacity to do so, becoming a foster parent to children that need a home, that's another great way of honoring it. Ritualistically, incorporating the wolf as part of your ritual, calling on Lupa to guide you, creating stronger bonds with your own community, whether that be your family or just other members of the community sphere that you're a part of, that can also be, tied back to the fact that a wolf, they're very, very loyal to their pack members. So you want to pay homage to those people that are in your life that are always loyal to you no matter what. So that's like a big thing, I think. Another thing that a lot of people don't really consider is that, back in the Roman times, back 12,000 years ago, right?
Right.
All that time ago. It's back then it wasn't unheard of, or people didn't think about their sexuality. There was a lot of male bonding, male sex that wasn't even like frowned upon, right? It was kind of normal for the day. And I think Lupercalia in today's society is a great reminder for the spiritually inclined male to maybe do some shadow work so they can feel more secure in their own masculinity without having to conform to society's standards. And, as females, we can help them by, just drinking a toast to our brothers, be they of spirit or of our own blood. Give them an opportunity to purge their shackles, purge themselves of what's holding them back, right? Because the whole Lupercalia is about 2 brothers. Mm-hmm. It's about that concept of brotherhood. And then on the flip side, we have this female energy inside the wolf mother that comes out as well. So it's balancing the 2, which I think is, in everything in spirituality, right? You have to have a balance.
Yep.
So, and that's that thing. And then personally, what I like to do and this is like really decadent, is I take a cleansing ritual bath and I add a cup of milk to the bath water. So milk is really great because it doesn't, it soothes and hydrates your skin, right? But if you add any kind of essential oils to your bath water as well, the milk helps the oil rise to the surface. So it doesn't stick to your skin, so you don't have that like filmy residue left on your skin. I don't like that, but the milk helps you with that. And the milk is also a reflection of Lupa's milk that she gave to Romulus and Remus, the two boys, part of the Lupercalia festivities.
That is all so beautiful. And I love the unique recommendations you gave, such as adopting a wolf, really incorporate that wolf aspect. And I think that's so helpful too, because that's within us. So many times I have seen people do quote unquote spring cleaning way before the date of spring per se, or they just get involved in something. They just feel it because they're already in tune with the cycles. So I believe that the more people are listening to you talk and the recommendations, the adopting a child and the two brothers, I'm sure that a lot of things are starting to ignite within. So definitely, even if you can get a statue of a wolf, there's so many ways you can be creative with this and take certain things, from the traditions, the good things. Libby was saying, you don't have to, sacrifice anyone, do the opposite, adopt. And then I love that you mentioned shadow work. Love it, because this is a huge thing and it's starting to get is due justice. No one wanted to talk about
Right.
it for so long, and now here we are. And it's so true. Unfortunately, many people still have to deal with exactly what you talked about. If they have feelings for a person of the same gender, or whatever the case may be, in some societies that's still frowned upon, and because of that, people can't live their truth. They can't be who they are. So working in the shadow aspect of really figuring out how can you, in a safe way, because I understand some people, they can't because it's a hostile situation, but how you can dive into your shadow aspect and let parts of you start to at least shine a little bit, and then figure out where you can grow.
Yes, exactly. Absolutely. Because, if you think about it, part of us in the spiritual realm, right? We're more leaning towards spirituality because we've had bad experiences with traditional religion that's run by, these male patriarch people right? So we've like going with spirituality because that fulfills us, right? That really makes us really great. But when we do that, there's this is like such a touchy subject too. Sorry, I'm losing my voice a little bit there.
It's okay.
So
it's the energy Lupercalia is just taking your breath away.
Right, exactly. So we have this in spiritual communities, we have more of a feminine-led ideology, right? We're kind of like go against. We don't want masculine energy in our spaces. We don't want the whole patriarchy thing, right? And that is, in part due to the overwhelming avoidance we have of that male-dominated religions. But that's not giving those who are in the spiritual communities and identify as male, it's not giving them the space to be themselves. We're not allowing them the opportunity to figure out who they want to be and who they want to show up as. Right? We kind of label them all male, patriarch, bad, no, right? We're all feminine and everything else, and it doesn't work that way. So Lupercalia brings us back to that of, there's these two brothers. They're defying the odds with help from the animal world. A stranger takes pity on them, and then they have the favor of the gods. So today, the equivalent of that is our concept of conservation, of charity, and, of manifestation. So by taking care of the world's animals, being charitable with our time, our money, our knowledge, and of course honoring our deities, we can keep the Lupercalia festival going, even in our crazy modern times with everything else, right?
Right. Exactly. So the way I look at it as, so it's 3 days, right? It's basically the weekend. So one day can be dedicated towards animals, helping animals, namely wolves or the canine family. If you can't get a wolf or, whatever the case may be. And or day one could be helping canines and people, namely young boys, guidance. Then the 14th can be shadow work, or we didn't talk about Valentine's Day yet, or if you want to incorporate the modern Valentine's Day, you can. And then the 15th can be all your rituals, whether you want to do ritual with animal spirits, whether you want to do sex magic, whether you want to do something that will help you to uh, be more charitable, like really open you up to being more aware of who needs help. Sometimes that's it too. We're not aware per se, so you can break it up. And these are just suggestions. You can do these all in one day if you want and break it up. But so because I know sometimes it can be overwhelming. Like, how do I do that? You can break it up.
Yeah, and that's the great thing because you can keep the festivities going for 3 full days. I mean, how many other festivals are there out there that you can celebrate in today's society that last for 3 days? You know?
Right. Absolutely. And another thing you touched on too were some of the symbols, like when you were talking about the milk and how that symbolizes, a mother feeding her child and being in the bathtub. So, what are some of the other symbols that people can incorporate into Lupercalia? Because I'm thinking Lupercalia, you got the whole love, sexual aspect. You got, even though we're not going to talk about the violent part, like we're not doing that. but you have a lot of caring, but also passionate energy. So I'm thinking fire and red. So what are some of the symbols that come to mind when you are thinking of Lupercalia, or at least working with that energy?
Okay, well, definitely milk, because I mean, who doesn't love a nice glass of milk, right? You can even use a milk as a toast.
Right.
Toast to Lupercalia with your nice little glass of milk. But also, we think about the fact that the Lupercalia, they hold on one second. I apologize. My voice again is going in and out. They sacrificed sheep or goats rather, sorry. And the twin boys, they were actually found by the king's shepherd Faustulus, and he brought them home with him. So when we think about the sheep or their goats, we can incorporate that into our festivities. So, wool. I mean, it's winter right now in this northern hemisphere. Who doesn't love just snuggling up in a nice warm jersey or a nice woolen blanket, right? So incorporating that into your ritual space, having a nice warm bath and then getting out and putting on a nice soft sweater, that's great. I mean, it sounds so simple, but honestly, it goes right back to Lupercalia. That wool from the sheep. If you are a meat eater, incorporating eating lamb in your meals and your festivals, right?
Yeah.
Your feast, I mean. I know some people don't do that, and that's quite all right. You can have vegetables, and you can create your vegetables to look like little lambs. I don't know, play around with your food.
Yeah, get creative. I mean, this is the
Exactly.
time to get creative. This festival is really about expression and, creative creation.
Yeah.
So do that, like have that feast, give yourself a reason to celebrate, especially during these crazy times. So I think, yeah, get as creative as you want with this. There are no rules with this, right? As far as like, your creative level.
Exactly. There are no rules. As long as you're respectful and you believe what you're doing is correct, that's fine. I mean, you can also use beets, because the beets have that red juice that represent the
Mm-hmm.
blood that was used in the original sacrifice. So, I mean, that's a great thing to add to your feast. I mean, what's a
Absolutely.
pagan celebration without a feast, right? You have to have a treat.
Exactly. Exactly. You have to have something red, right? in your goblet.
Exactly. So there you
Absolutely.
go. That was that.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And so, and I do want to touch a little bit on Valentine's Day, but before we dive into that, I want to talk a little bit about how Lupercalia impacts the spiritual community, because I know well, spiritual community is a broad term. I understand that, but there are some things that definitely play a part in a community that is felt all throughout the branches, as I like to say. So overall, how do you feel? What do you think about Lupercalia in the spiritual community in today's time?
I think in today's time, it impacts us by bringing light to the fact that we do need to take better care of the animal world.
Hmm.
I know that might sound like a far fetch, but it really does. I mean, if it wasn't for Lupa, the mother wolf, the story wouldn't have continued. The
Hmm.
story would have ended with the two boys. They were wrapped up in these reed baskets and set afloat on this river, to die of the elements, basically.
Hmm.
So I think this really sheds light on the animal world and how closely we are actually truly connected to the animal world, and showing our respect and helping take care of that, right? It's also shedding light on pity, compassion,
Mm.
right? I mean, here's a stranger that came across this wolf who had these two little baby boys, and he took pity on them and took them home with him, right? So usually when we're out and about and we see a stranger in the street, we're like, oh no, stranger. We zip up our little psychic energy shield and we try to zip past them as quickly as we can.
Hmm.
Um, we see somebody who's homeless on the street and we walk past, right? So perhaps Lupercalia is a way for us to recognize the fact that having a little bit of charity, having a little bit of compassion, if you have a dollar to spare or whatever, give it to a homeless person who needs it. Go work in a soup kitchen for a day. Um, Help out where you can in your community, but also, don't forget those animals. I'm a big animal advocate, as you can obviously tell,
Yeah.
but it's because
uh
it's important,
it's
right? I mean,
important. Yeah.
the animal world and the human world are interconnected, and we really need to start understanding that and respecting that and working to improve that versus just cutting everything down and destroying it.
No, absolutely. And I think, in addition to that, it plays into our animalistic nature. When I think
Mm,
of the wolf, I think of the hunter, the huntress, always making your mark, being in tune with the moon and the wilderness, not uh, being so restrictive that you are disconnected. So that's another thing that pops up into my mind. But I am huge on community service, helping out someone. So I am just so grateful that you really touched on that, because it is important. It's
yeah.
so. How many times have we not even realized it, just happen to walk past someone who probably is going through something, but they can't even vocalize it because maybe they're a strong person or they feel ashamed, whatever the case may be. So sometimes we have to be the ones to lend a hand, to step up, step in. So that was beautiful. Yeah, and I think that's how it can help the spiritual community, because it's easy to think, oh, well, I'm over here in spirituality, I'm not over there. So I'm just going to stay
Right.
over here. But what if that person over there still needs your help, as you were saying? Well, that person just needs your help to learn that one thing from you, and then they can move on somewhere else. So that was very insightful.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, if you want to really think about it, there's this belief that every person in the world today has one big goal of their life, and that is to help one other person, right?
Mm,
So if we think about we just have to help one other person, you have to decide how that help looks like. Is it a huge thing you're going to do? Is it just a small little thing? What is it? But you have to help one other person. That's a big it's a big idea to consider, but it
mm,
still goes back to community service. Like you were saying, we are nothing without our community. And
mm,
Lupercalia with the wolf, and loyalty being such a big part of the wolf community, the pack mentality. We can see pack mentality in a lot of communities in the human world. Some of them not
mm,
so good, some of them are great, but
mm,
it's up to us to create a community where we have that pack mentality of charity, of compassion, of understanding and acceptance,
mm,
for exactly who we are. I mean, Lupa the wolf, she accepted these baby boys. She didn't say, well, she didn't think, well, hey, these are not wolves. These are not cubs. I'm not going to take care
mm.
of them, right? She just took them. They needed help. Um, she just accepted them for who they were. So again, helping other people by just accepting who they are and where they are in their journey, and then
Mhm.
seeing how we can help them further themselves, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yay!
Which leads me to Valentine. I wanted to talk about this because I know you've seen this in your studies as well, as many old way holidays, pagan, etc. holidays have been either repurposed and given new names, or other holidays have been before or after the pagan holidays, as a way to, since they couldn't get rid of the holidays, sort of combine them in a way. So I just wanted to touch on Valentine's Day, and I just read one of the paragraphs here. So also the source, and I always put the sources in the description of the episode, is from history.com, Lupercalia. So again, I'll put in the description for further reading. But basically, a guy named Claudius wouldn't at the time convert to Christianity. And it states here, the legend tells us of another story. So it's two different people, looks like. Actually,
Mhm.
let me backtrack here. So it goes, as the story goes, during Valentine's imprisonment, he tried converting uh, Claudius to Christianity. Claudius became enraged and ordered Valentine to reject his faith or be killed. He refused to forsake his faith, so Valentine was beheaded. The legend also tells of another story that happened during Valentine's imprisonment after he tutored a girl named Julia, the blind daughter of his jailer. The legend states that God restored Julia's sight, and Valentine prayed with her. And on the eve of his execution, Valentine supposedly penned a note to Julia and signed it, "From your Valentine." And then the rest is history, where it just kind of pick up from your Valentine. So here's another bloody story, and of course he, like, it goes on and on, like it was pretty bloody. So here we have a bloody story in a way that becomes red and pink hearts that's not even shaped like a heart. So How can something like that happen, and why? So it's two parts. How can something like that happen, and why do you think people still celebrate more so Valentine's Day than Lupercalia?
Oh, I think that can be summed up in one very, very good word. Consumerism.
Mm,
I mean, the story you just told, right? What reflects that in today's world? Well, it's the Hallmark Valentine's cards, right? Hallmark came out with their Valentine's cards, I think it was like 1930s or something like that, the first
oh
Valentine's
wow.
cards. And they've stuck with it. I mean, you think Valentine's, you immediately kind of think of Hallmark, right? Because
Hmm.
that's what they do. They do their cards. Um, so yeah, consumerism, I think, is the best way of doing it. And honestly, nobody nobody in their right mind wants to go and do anything that's going to result in sacrifice of either themselves or
Hmm.
of a creature. They don't
Hmm.
want to deal with, all the aftermath and the bloodiness and all that. Nobody wants to do that, right? Unless, of course, you're some kind of serial killer, and then please get some help. Really. So yeah, I think Lupercalia, because of that, like, oh, it's seedy, it's bloody, it's gory. They were whipping people, um, right? And then Valentine's, you've got this. Oh, it's so much more calmer and it's serene and it's lovey-dovey, and people can sell that. They can sell you
Hmm.
on that concept of love, whereas Lupercalia wasn't trying to sell you anything. It was purification at its very core.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, yeah, I can see that because I was just thinking like, man, why didn't they just take the good parts? Because that's what we do, right? Even with Valentine, no one's, getting bloody with this, right? But we're sending little candies and things like that. And like you said, they are selling that love aspect, whereas with Lupercalia, like you said, there were lashings for purification. There was, uninhibited sex, and then that became a taboo. It's like, okay, we need to tone it down. There's animal sacrifice. Who wants to clean that up? So yeah, it is definitely messy.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very um there's little to prove or disapprove a connection between the Lupercalia and the Valentine's Day, right? But
Mhm.
the evolution of both of these festivals in the cultures reveals a common trait of humanity, right? Rituals
Mm.
evolve love. They outlive the original function and their meaning. So as long as you provide the chance to experience the sublime and or the ridiculous, you can enjoy a festival, right? So whether you are running naked in the street wearing a loincloth, whipping people along your way, or whether you are handwriting a love poem to give to your love of your life, you're still crossing that boundary of social norm.
Mhm.
And I think that's why the festivals have continued through the years in the ways that they have. Does that make sense, or did I just go really airy fairy?
No, no, it definitely makes sense. No, no, it definitely makes sense. It's just so interesting how over the years we see this change, but yet I still see in people that raw nature that is just trying to come out. As they say, people have a Freudian slip. I want to say it's like a raw nature slip. They do
Ooh,
something, and I'm trying to think of an example right now that, like, they may take an intro. Okay, so someone may like a picture on Instagram that's a little risque. Maybe it's a spiritual woman dancing sensually to unlock her lower chakras, right? And it's like, oh my gosh, John liked that Instagram photo, but maybe John, as you were saying earlier, maybe he's trying to get into more of his feminine aspect. And maybe for him, it wasn't, this creepo thing. It was like, oh my gosh, she's doing this. Maybe I'm going to go move my hips. So it's just so interesting to see how, yeah, the change over the years, but it's still, some of it still goes against the human norm. And
Yeah.
we still had to be low key with certain things because, pick a society and there's going to be some taboo. I talked about this in a previous episode where the things that should be taboo aren't. Like
Yes.
doing this work should not be a taboo, but it is. So yeah, it's also a little bit of that catch-22 in a way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Catch 22. I mean, that's just like the meaning of life, I think, is the catch 22. That's it. Whoever said it was what, 47? No,
It was
it's catch
42.
22.
Oh, yeah,
22.
catch 22. I'm trying, what was that movie now? They went to go see the Oracle, and was Dave
Oh,
Chappelle in
that's
there? Oh, who was in there?
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yes, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to think who was in there. Oh my gosh,
Okay.
and then they asked the Oracle. She said 42.
I think she misspelled. She was definitely catch 22,
Oh
not
my gosh,
42.
that's funny. Oh my gosh, but yeah, yeah, so all of that really intrigues me. So for what are some of the recommendations you would give to someone who's going against society norms, but they want to incorporate like this part in their life, and not necessarily Valentine's Day or Lupercalia, but just that whole, like you were saying, the adoption and the shadow work. What are some stuff they can do so if they want to honor Lupercalia, it comes natural to them?
To do the hard part, I think. Do the hard part first, and that hard part is going to be shadow work. It's going to be identifying the parts of yourself that are feral, that are wild, and identifying what part of that you want to still keep and hold on to. What is your primal driving force in life, right? So shadow work is going to help you figure that out. And once you have that, you've created for yourself a really solid foundation. You've addressed your shadows, you've addressed your primal raw self, and you can then understand how best to move forward to live a life where, you have love, not just for other people, but that other people have for you and that you have for yourself.
Mm, yeah, and
Yeah.
that you have for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I had to take a deep breath on that one. Yes, it's true. I think and the shadow work, some people think it's scary. It's more intense than scary. I mean, it could be, but really you're acknowledging things that are in the shadows. Sometimes people think it's evil and
Oh
this horrible
goodness,
thing.
yeah. No, it's not. Absolutely not. It's that primal raw self. I mean, if you think about it, we all have two sides to ourselves. We have the side that everyone sees every single day, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
we have the side that's in our minds and in our hearts that other people can't see. And we need to bring that person that's inside our minds and our hearts
Mm-hmm.
to the forefront so that other people see the same thing.
Right.
So through shadow work, we can learn to not necessarily mirror those two aspects of ourselves, but to join them.
Mm-hmm.
And you
Mm-hmm.
can use Lupa the wolf in the story. You can use her to help you by looking to the wolf as your totem animal, as your spirit animal, learning more about what a wolf symbolizes and how that can be applied to your work and how you live in your daily everyday life.
Absolutely. And then that's when you become free. I had to tell you that every time I've done shadow work and like really see it to the end, I felt so much better. And I swear I've lost weight. I feel like I always drop 2 or 3 pounds. And I just feel so much better. I feel relieved. I just feel like I owned whatever I needed to own, and now I can move on. And there's a part of me that's been released, and the actual Tia can show through.
Beautiful. I think that's beautiful. I mean, that's a great lesson right there to share with people. You know, it's shadow work is not scary. It's not, they say it's not for the faint of heart. And that's kind of true in a little aspect, but it's just because it means you've got to be brave enough to admit the truth to yourself, right? You have to, if you can't lie to yourself. And once you
Yeah.
realize that you have to be honest with yourself, then the fear goes away and you're able to do your shadow work and move forward.
Right. Exactly. The issue comes when we stop in the middle. Like, oh, and I've seen this with some people where they said, okay, I've done something wrong and let's have conversation. We have conversations about it. And then they give up because it just got too hard. And that's the thing is, see it to the end, because it literally is a domino effect. So, for example, even now we can really pretty confidently and also, jokingly talk about Lupercalia. But imagine if this was maybe 15 years ago. We would probably, I'm going to speak for myself. I would be a little bit nervous to talk about it, right? I talk about an ancient pagan festival. Oh, that's against the norm. I don't know. I want to be like safe, But now I'm just like, screw it. I want to talk about it, because I feel like especially once I take on the mantle of saying witch in my bio, like that's what I included, eclectic witch. It's like a lot comes with that, and diving into spirituality, a lot comes with that. So I feel like, knowing the history is so important, even though it's gruesome. It's good to know still what that was. So that
Yeah,
comes with
so that
shadow
way
work.
you understand what happened before so that you can learn to adapt it for modern times. So that
Absolutely.
people, generations to come will be able to maybe look at what you did and say, I can adapt that to my modern times. You're every day
Mm-hmm.
that you're alive, you're creating history.
Mm-hmm.
And we taking our history from Lupercalia into Valentine's to who knows what they're going to be celebrating 1200 years from now.
Right. Lupertine, something like that. But also on a side note, it was bothering me. I had to look up the actors and actresses because it was so long. So on the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, it's Sam Rockwell, Mos Def, Zoe Deschanel, Martin Freeman, Bill Nye. And he's one of my favorite actors, and I should remember his last name, how to pronounce it. I think because there's a Knight Lee, that's why, and I got a little confused. Anna Chancellor, John Malkovich, and Joby Talbot. So yeah, but
Good cast.
very good cast, very, very. Yeah, this was such a great conversation, and I know this is going to help a lot of people. Just I was saying before, it's definitely, and also with the other holidays, it's something in us, that raw energy that just boom notifies us this is the next tide, the next change of the season, the next holiday, whatever it is. And to present people this history, and also, even though we briefly show the progression, because that can be like a 5 hour show, to at least demonstrate, like, hey, here's where it started. Here are some of the things that made its way to us, and here's what you can do about that. I think that's powerful, because we are tapped in. Some of us are tapped in at a higher volume than others, but we are tapped in. And to know this and apply it into our lives will definitely enhance our lives even more and make us even more connected.
Beautifully said. Yes. Yes. I had to take a deep breath after that one.
Oh goodness. Yeah, I'm actually big on history. I mean, I like to read up as much as I can. Of course, I can't read every single book, but all this intrigues me, and like that in the progression really is something. It's interesting.
It is. I mean, we have to know our history in order to know our future.
Mm-hmm. Any final thoughts?
Final thoughts on Lupercalia? I would have to say embrace your primal needs for self-love. Because we are so consumed this time of the year with Valentine's Day and professing our love for somebody else. And we get so caught up in that we don't ever think about, do we love ourselves? So I would say definitely just focus on yourself for once. I mean, you deserved to be loved, and you deserve to have love, and you deserve to give love. But I think Lupercalia is here to tell us, you come first. Love yourself. Honor yourself. Accept the wild wolf inside of you. And understand that to have love for someone else means that you have to start with compassion. And compassion starts with charity and social work. Right? And that also leads into our animal work, our conservation programs and things like that. So I think that's like sums it all up for me. I know it's kind of deep, but you know, spirituality is not for the faint of heart, right? It's not airy-fairy. There's something in it that's deep that we all have to that we're all drawn to and we have to accept. And I think that's where Lupercalia takes us. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. As you were saying, I was thinking about, it's an Instagram page I follow where they actually, it's a wolf and a dog wolf shelter. It's somewhere in the US. I think, is it in Oregon? I forget where. But yeah, I was just like, I got to go there one day. So yeah,
amazing.
That just came to mind. And yes, thank you. That was so beautifully said. And you know, Valentine's Day is only commercialized if you let it, if you let it be.
Exactly.
So that's the little shout out there to people who are just like, screw Valentine's Day. It is what you make it.
Yes. Yes, there was many years where I didn't have any reason to celebrate Valentine's Day, right? Because I was single and all that other fun stuff. But now it's like I'm married and we still don't do big Valentine's things because we're married. But it is what you make of it. We don't need to have a special day to profess our love. We can do that every single day.
Right.
And I think that's the important part. Right. Make it what you want to make it be.
Right.
It's all about, and that's what we do with paganism, with spirituality, with witchcraft. We take something that's been passed down through the generations and we make it our own. With respect and reverence, of course, but we make it our own.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I am sending you so many blessings. I love you. I am rooting for you as always. Remember to be kind to yourself. Until next time. As always, Spiritual Trailblazer, thank you for tuning in. Do make sure to stop by and visit me at tiamariejohnson.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe. Last but not least, be kind to yourself. I'm rooting for you, and I'm sending you so many blessings. Until next time.